Hello, everybody. Welcome to Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripePipe.com, now officially on iTunes. Tim Dan here, excited for an awesome edition of Men in Stripes here, as it is Combine Week. So we actually have some football stuff to discuss. How cool is that? It's the time of the year we all get excited about when we get ready for draft season, which is one of my favorite points of the NFL year. So we have a couple weeks before free agency starts, so obviously there's a lot of rumblings there. We have the Combine, like I said, and of course, we're all just counting down the days till training camp when the Cincinnati Bengals are once again taking the field. So before we move a little further here, let's go ahead and introduce my excellent co-host here. He is one of the co-editors of StripePipe.com. This is Mr. Matthew Wilson. Matthew, thank you for joining us as always.
Hey, glad to be here, Tim. Thank you for continuously working on this project and getting it done week to week.
Yeah, man, we've been the best we can with it. And young and upstart project. It's going to be doing some big things, I'm sure of it, so we can't wait till it hits its stride. So let's hop right into it, man. So, like we said, it's Combine Week, and we're all going to be raving about these young kids who are trying to make a name for themselves in the NFL draft, trying to make some extra money. A lot of guys out there, you kind of know the top 10, 15 draft picks already, and you know that even before the Combine. Some wild cards here and there, Jalen Smith being probably the biggest wild card because of his knee injury, where he could end up. Jared Goff, where does he go? Is he at that top 10 pick? Did the Niners let him get past 7 after that Colin Kaepernick news that came out today? There's a lot of guys out there that just really jump out and make this really interesting Combine. So as you get ready for this week with workouts starting tomorrow, who are some of the guys that you're looking forward to seeing? Who are some of the prospects that jump out at you as potential future Bengals for the 2016 season?
Well, there's obviously a couple of them, and I mean we've seen them come up for the Bengals in terms of the mock drafts that are out there for sure. Coleman's one that I'm eager to see because there's a lot of people that want or at least continuously are putting Coleman in with the Bengals. Of course, he's out of Baylor, but I'm eager to see him. Of course, as we talked about plenty of times on the site, I'm eager to see some of these Ohio State guys as well. They're coming up. Of course, Darren Lee is a good prospect for the Bengals for sure. He's up and coming. Trying to go through all the names in my head. Shaq Lawson, if he can make it down to the Bengals, I don't want to see him pass by. He's a great flex defensive lineman for sure, and somebody that I would love to see the Bengals kind of take on, and he'd be great in that rotation aspect for the Bengals.
Yeah, I think that's a name that definitely stands out there. I mean, we've obviously seen the Bengals linked to a lot of wide receivers. We've even on this show discussed potential Braxton Miller. So obviously that wide receiving core, the Michael Thomas, Laquan Treadwell, Josh Doxson, Corey Coleman, Will Fuller, there's so many wide receivers in that one spot. And then there's a pretty big drop after this. I actually talked about this on my other show last night. I'm very enthused by that core. Those 5 or 6 guys I just named, I think all would fit really well into the Bengals offense. I'm really excited to see a guy like Eli Apple, the cornerback from Ohio State. He's a guy that that has been linked to the Bengals a couple times too. A guy's been linked to the Steelers a couple times too, as they're trying to rebuild their defensive secondary. So that definitely stands out as an option there. The name I'm most excited about, even though the Bengals have no chance of getting him, and they shouldn't, even if they had a chance, is Carson Wentz. Just jumps out of tapes. Just looks so amazing. He has a lot of arm strength. The way he's built, the way his athleticism. He's a guy that definitely I'm excited to see what he does at the Combine. Will not be excited if he's a Cleveland Brown by any means, because they're the only one of the division that needs a quarterback, obviously. But still a guy, you got to look at and be pretty excited to see what he can do out there.
No, absolutely. And as you said, I don't see him falling, but it was interesting. It's an interesting read because Bucky Brooks actually on NFL.com has Laquan Treadwell falling all the way to the Bengals, and I know he has been listed on Mike Mayock's list as being the top wide receiver on basically the draft, and so somebody that would be interesting, especially if he falls to the Bengals as well. But going back to what you were saying too, I would love to see Wentz a little more in the combine as well. Not excited to see him obviously go to the Browns, as you said, but at the same time, a good young talent, good arm strength for sure. Something it seems like he might suffer a little bit on his accuracy. Obviously something that's easily worked on, as we've seen with Andy Dalton, bring in Dr. House from USC, and he has worked on accuracy very well with Andy Dalton and the guys for the Bengals. So definitely interesting combine that gets started tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. There's so much talent in this draft. Well, there's so much talent in every draft. I guess it's not really fair. But I mean, it's nice to get this opportunity to see these guys, because since the end of the college football season, we've been speculating where everyone's going to go, and everything here and everything there, and who we should look at, and who we should target. And now we're getting a chance to see what these guys can do. So on that note, let's kind of just play this idea out here, just because we know, the Bengals aren't one to shy away from this, obviously, as we saw in last year's draft. 21st pick comes around. The 24th pick comes around. The 23 teams before the Bengals decide to skip on Jalen Smith because of the knee injury. Do you take him?
Ooh.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
I take him in a heartbeat because he is a single-handedly once-in-a-lifetime talent. He may not be the best he actually has really solid football IQ. His instincts are a little here and there, but he is a pure athlete, just an excellent playmaker. He can go and get sacks. He can get in the backfield really fast. He has led 100 tackles each year at his time at Notre Dame. He's a guy that you can change your defense immediately. And you're looking at the possibility, and tell me you're not excited about this, of the front four of a Geno Atkins, Michael Johnson, whoever you throw at nose tackle right next to Geno, Carlos Dunlap, and then a linebacking core of Vontaze Burfict, Ray Maluga, and Jalen Smith. Yeah, I'm all for that. That's wonderful. That's a beautiful thing.
Oh, absolutely, and he's got the talent for sure. He's got the athleticism. I think the Bengals could utilize on the outside, opposite of Vontaze. Not saying that, not saying he's dumb by any means. He does have a little bit to work on in terms of his overall skill in terms of seeing the play develop in front of him fully. He still has a little bit of work to do there, but something, again, that comes with experience. And, I think it's one of those things that Jalen Smith is arguably, and I say arguably, probably the best outside linebacker in the draft. And I know that's arguable with Miles Jack from UCLA, but he definitely is up there in terms of talent for sure.
I would say Jalen's the best. 100%? 100%? Totally, yeah, I would say Jalen's the best.
Don't look at NFL.com then.
I know. I know. Trust me. Yeah. And I know a lot of people say I'm biased there, but I've watched that kid in person. I've watched that kid from a sideline. I've watched him go east to west, just covering people. I watched him go against Juju Smith in open field and take him down. And those who don't know who I'm talking about, if you don't follow the college game, just get on YouTube and look up highlights of USC wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. He is outstanding. And Jalen Smith literally wrapped that guy up, chased him down, and got him. And we all heard about Christian McCaffrey and how amazing of a football player he is at Stanford. Heisman football runner-up. Jalen Smith led a defense that held him to 63 yards rushing. His only game he didn't have 100 yards was that game. So, yeah, I would kill to have Jalen Smith. And the way his progress is going, the rehab from the reports you're seeing, it looks like, they're talking about the possibility of him being ready by week 1 of the NFL season.
And obviously, I mean, the Bengals will have to be careful there because, we heard that previously too with Geno Atkins and some of the injuries. Obviously, the Bengals have had there, but at the same time, he's going to be new in a new system. I would see him obviously not being ready for Week 1 in the Bengals system or for Week 1 even in the NFL system, but definitely giving him some reps in Week 1, getting him accustomed to the speed of the game, maybe even him sitting out Week 1, seeing how the speed of the game really goes, and then jumping into it Week 2 once he's got a week of practice underneath him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if the possibility's there, and don't be wrong, I know I think he drops to 24. If he drops there, I'd take him in a heartbeat, though. I for sure. I do think it ends up being a wide receiver, because especially now that we're hearing this report, which we'll get to here in a minute, about virtually no chance Mohamed Sanu comes back, whether it's just interest from the Bengals or it's just not having the money to do it or anything there. I can't see any way that they wouldn't want to add to that, because obviously you're going to have Dalton, you're going to have Eifert. You think Marvin Jones is coming back, but you're starting to wonder.
No, and we'll see week maybe even first day of the free agency period, and of course that's coming up here on the 15th, is day 1 at 4 p.m. But still, I mean that one we still got to cross our fingers for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So I certainly agree with you there. And just to reiterate, just so everyone knows, this is Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripePipe.com. We are a fan-sided network and also now available on iTunes, as for each and every episode will be uploaded to the feed to be on there for you. So, with that being said, we know where we're at right now as far as the free agents, who's more valuable, who should the Bengals spend more money on, who should they make sure they keep, who should they let walk away. We're going to ask these questions for a couple weeks, obviously, and we're going to talk about that for a couple weeks because, holy moly, when there is no football game to talk about, we break the world of football down like it's never going to end, as we should. I think that it's fair to say that I'm not too critical on if Mohamed Sanu comes back or goes. I know there's been a couple articles on the site of who's more valuable between the two, who would the Bengals rather have. Do I want my wide receiver that I can throw to deep downfield, he can catch just about anything and actually scored 5 touchdowns? Or do I want my Swiss Army knife that I can line up as a quarterback, a running back, a slot wide receiver, a Y wide receiver, next wide receiver, who didn't have any receiving touchdowns last year? That's, a little tricky there, and I think it's a debate everyone's going to have. Between the two, I'd rather have Jones, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I think Marvin Jones definitely outperformed Mohamed Sanu in their tenure with the Bengals. Don't be wrong, it'd be awesome if they could find a way to keep both, even though we know it's very slim to none going to happen. But, yeah, I think that if you have to pick between the two, if you're going to give one of them the money, I give it to Marvin Jones. I don't let him leave my site, and whatever money you lose from Mohamed Sanu, I use that to renegotiate Tyler Eifert this offseason.
Yeah, but again, you have to be careful too because they have Reggie Nelson, they have George Iloka, they have Adam Jones. Obviously, they need to focus on, and so some of that money will be reallocated there too. But one of the big things I've been seeing, and I like Braxton Miller. I don't, and I know he thinks, and good for him for thinking he's a number 1 or a first-round draft pick. Again, as I've said, I think that we need to see more from him and more consistency from him, and he has a chance, of course, this weekend to prove why he should be drafted in the first round. But looking at and I've gone through kind of amping myself up for round 2 of my mock draft for the first round, and part of me still holds him out because I still don't see that consistency. And that's not to say that he isn't a first-round draft pick, but I want to see more consistency from him for sure. But he is one of those that I think could replace Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah.
And I think he could do exactly what Sanu did. My only thing is I don't want to pay somebody like that $3, $4, $5 million. That's I know is going to be a wide receiver 3 for me, and so I like the guy. Don't get me wrong, but I want to see a competition between my wide receiver 2s, and that's where I think I like Laquan Treadwell. I like Corey Coleman in that position as well. So I think with Sanu pretty much being gone, or at least so reported, Braxton Miller does come as a good question to Bengals fans, but I would hesitate to say that I think he's first round.
Where does Mario Alford fit in all this? Because you got to think he's probably going to get first dibs as a kick returner. Well, obviously if they bring Pac-Man Jones back, those two will probably be the kick returners, which I expect they will. You got to because Brandon Tate's probably gone. I mean, you hope Brandon Tate's gone, right? And then you got to think because if you do lose one of those wide receivers, being Jones or Sanu, which you're very likely to do, he goes right in there in that moment. And you got to think about James Wright too, and whatever he's going to be with this team, which I think there's talks this week even about he's making recoveries. You got to think Alford goes from that like Green, Jones, Sanu, Burkhead, Tate, seventh wide receiver to like immediately like at the worst 4 before like once those you figure out where you're going on with what's going on with those 3.
I've said it probably since day one with Alford, and that is I think Mario Alford is the Stephon Logan for the Bengals. He is short, he is quick, he's got speed, he's got elusiveness. My only issue with him is a typical NFL corner could cover him easily and could blanket him easy in one-on-one situations. And so my issue with that is I think he is a special teams gift to the Bengals all day long. However, I don't see him as a true starting wide receiver, and because of his size. And granted, size isn't everything, and I know that for sure. But I think for him, I think he's more of that special teams guy that would be a great kick returner, could be a good punt returner. I would love to see him at least try at wide receiver. My only fear is his overall size is going to be kind of his Achilles heel. And so I would love to see him put into more of an option role. If you want to put him, because I know they ran Sanu in a lot of options. If you want to see him put more into an option role again where he's kind of the end-around guy, again, that short elusiveness could benefit the Bengals there. I just don't see him being that top wide receiver spot or in the top 3-4 guys. If you want to argue number 5, I'm right there with you, but I just don't see him being that number 4 Hail Mary type situations where everybody's lined outside type guy, just because I think his size is his Achilles heel.
I think that's fair. That's definitely a good point there. I do believe that he does definitely bring something to the table. Like you mentioned, as far as like special teams goes, it's huge for sure. But I don't know, maybe my idea is a little better for him than you. I don't think that he's going to go out there and change the way the slot wide receivers anyway play, but I certainly think he could be a role in this team that Andrew Hawkins was. I think he certainly has that possibility. Maybe not necessarily a guy that you can throw like deep downfield, but he'll burn some people, yeah, and he is elusive enough to, if you can get him in open field, you get him lined up against an outside linebacker. He's certainly a guy you got to target in that circumstance. But yeah, I mean, I think he could definitely play a role in this offense. Now, do I think he's going to end up one of those top 4 wide receivers? No way. The draft, free agency, they're going to bring guys in as far as like possible guys, tweener guys that can make the team in the training camp. Punt returner, kick returner, yeah, I think he's there. I think he fills that role for Brandon Tate easily, along with Adam Jones. But other than that, I don't know where he's going to be.
No, absolutely. I'm in full agreement there. I think and granted, I see your point with Andrew Hawkins. He was elusive. He's got the speed for sure. Would love to see him Would love to see him kind of take on a more of a role with the Bengals because he is somebody who has that potential for sure. But again, for me, I think his size is his Achilles heel. I think he has a special teams gift. I think he has the ability to be in special teams. As I said, I think he is the Bengals version of Stephon Logan. And if you haven't really followed, and granted, I know I'm talking Steelers, but if you haven't followed the Steelers with that, Stephon Logan was quick. He was elusive. He constantly made plays, made people miss. And he was that guy that if you're 9 yards deep and he's running it out, you're not sitting there going, why did he do that? You would be the one sitting there going, all right, this guy knows what he's doing. He's going to at least get to the 20, if not further.
Stephon Logan, that's a name, man.
But and the funny thing is he actually has led the Steelers in returns and punts. I mean, it's weird to say that, but I mean, he kind of had the best season the Steelers have ever had from a kick returner, punt returner for sure. And granted, it was only 1 year, but I mean, 55 kick returns for it was something like 1,400 yards or something like that.
Wow.
I mean, it was ridiculous. And he never had a touchdown, but he had an 83-yard where he got tackled within the 20. So, I mean, again, that he had, 26.7 yards per return. He had 9.3 yards per return on the punt returns. He had 30 returns for 280 yards. So, I mean, again, a guy who I think we could easily compare Mario Alford to and be impressed with. And he has a place on this team for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, you bringing up that this 83-yard kicks that don't get to the house and they get tackled for just makes me think of Tab Perry in 2005 when he brought that kick back against the Steelers. And you just thought for sure he's gone. And I think it was he got tripped up by whoever the kicker was for the Steelers at the time. You're like, oh man.
Yeah. That absolutely.
Oh man, good times. So what did you think about Duke Tobin speaking today at the Combine instead of Marvin Lewis?
I think it's the right move. Marvin for so long had kind of been the face looking out for these guys, looking out for draft picks. With bringing in Duke Tobin, this is what the Bengals brought him in for. They brought him in to evaluate talent, to look at the players, to create a relationship with the players. That's what he's here in the Bengals organization for. And so I'm okay with him being there instead of Marvin Lewis. Don't get me wrong, Marvin Lewis will probably be around the Combine, probably be watching, sitting with Duke, comparing notes with Duke. But at the same time, that's Duke's job. And so, if you're going to basically make it so that Duke is doing his job, I say good. That's what he's here for.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I certainly agree there. I think that I thought it was cool. I really appreciate what he said in this quote of ours, as far as because for the love of God, no one will quit talking about the playoff game. Really, when he said that Vontaze and Adam Jones did more to help the Bengals win than they did to lose, and I think that's very true because if you take that final, whatever you want to call it, 12, 13 seconds out, Vontaze Burfict's probably the player of the game for the Bengals. He makes the sack on Roethlisberger that gets the momentum and they'll cloud back into it. He's, running east and west. He's making all the hits. He gets the interception that you think clinches the game before Jeremy Hill's fumble. So yeah, I was really appreciative of that, and I thought that was awesome that he went that far.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, it's somebody who is supposed to be kind of in front of the players, somebody who's supposed to be standing up for the players and evaluating the players' performances and that's I was glad to see him really investing in what the Bengals really want him to do. And so it proves that they made the right move there. Again, I'm one that I think that, and I've said it for a few years now, I think Marvin Lewis should be the GM of this team. But since you're not going to do that, it's best to see that It's best to see that the guy that you are bringing in is invested in his job and really wants to bring this team to the next level.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's definitely been a nice thing for them as well. Yeah, it's really cool to see that for sure. Let's see what else is out there today. So some of the other cool discussions that we've seen lately. Where am I? I just lost my brainwave. Man, that's not good. Nice. Recording radio, it's the best.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see how much cap space the Bengals are going to have going into the offseason?
30?
Yeah.
That was just kind of the last thing I heard. So, it was somewhere in the neighborhood like 33, I think, is the estimate. 30 to 33 is the estimated. But one thing I know I wanted to bring up, you and I talked about it a little bit in planning, is St. Louis Rams, Los Angeles Rams releasing James Laurinaitis, and the possibility. And I know we kind of talked about bringing in a linebacker from the draft, but what about bringing Laurinaitis in and then reuniting him and AJ Hawk? But Laurinaitis hasn't been terrible in St. Louis. In fact, They have one of the best defenses, and so the fact that they're basically kind of starting from scratch even in LA was kind of mind-blowing. But, what about bringing Laurinaitis into the Bengals, maybe foregoing a linebacker at least early on in the draft, and make Laurinaitis your guy for next year?
I'd do it in a heartbeat. Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Because, one, AJ Hawk wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll be honest, he wasn't good. Like, he didn't do anything that stood out or jumped out. He didn't make some play that you were like, man, I'm so glad he's on our team. He didn't make a difference for this defense. That's one thing. Two, do we know what's going to happen with Emmanuel Lamur? Like,
Ew.
No, like, so I would bring James Laurinaitis in for sure. I think he'd be a great fit here. I think Jim Haslett would love to have him on his team, to have alongside Vontez and Ray Malaluga. I saw, I think that he would be I think he's a great fit here. He's definitely going to be linked, obviously, being an Ohio State guy. So anytime an Ohio State guy goes free in the Ohio area, the Bengals fans are going to want him. But truthfully and honestly, like, taking that joke aside, I would love to have him. I think that he'd be very good here because he's a guy that rarely misses a tackle. He has very good tackling forms we've seen. I think he's the Rams' all-time tackle leader. We're talking about a franchise that had Deacon Jones, for God's sakes. And he's just, he's such an athletic player. He still has the football instincts. He still has the football IQ that's very, very rarely matched. So, yeah, I think he'd be an awesome fit in Cincinnati.
Now, going back to kind of what we said with AJ, AJ did, of course, have the sack against Houston, which, granted, wasn't like he sacked somebody and how great the sack was, but 24 tackles overall in the season. His big game, though, seemed to come against the first game against Baltimore. That seems to be kind of what stood out in my mind for AJ. So it's not that I think he needed to get used to the system. Of course, coming from a totally different system in Green Bay. But I would love to see him kind of, especially early on, if he's back on this team next year, this year for 2016, and which I know his contract is good through this year. I would love to see him, especially with Vontez out, take a little bit more of a leadership role. And of course, if you bring in James Laurinaitis, you bring in two Ohio State guys who have, granted, for a 1 year worked together. But at the same time, what James Laurinaitis and AJ Hawk can do is you bring back a familiarity for AJ, and so he's not starting with a bunch of SEC guys. He's got his own player there to kind of, all right, I know this guy, I know what he's about, and let's do this. And so you almost kind of bring back like a kick in the step type thing. And I know AJ coming home was supposed to be the biggest thing in the world for him, but I would love to see something familiar and him working with somebody familiar to him and see how much more comfortable he is. It's not like we were bringing in somebody who was in the system and then left the system and came back like Michael Johnson and didn't miss a beat. He was learning a whole new system. And if I may be wrong on this, but I think the Packers play a 3-4 system compared to the Bengals 4-3. And so, and I know if I'm wrong. By the way, we have for everybody who's listening, we have a brand new co-editor. If you haven't noticed, Dylan Teston has come over from Lombardi Avenue. So our Green Bay affiliate for Fansided. And so I know if I'm wrong, I'm going to get a text message when he hears this podcast. But I think they run a 3-4 system. And so now you are taking him and putting him from a 3-4 system, which he's known for 9 seasons, and you bring him in the 10th season, you bring him into a 4-3. He's got to learn a whole new system. So it wouldn't shock me if year 2 he made a bigger splash. But it's going to be interesting to see for sure. And I'd love to have James Laurinaitis. I'd love to see that familiarity. Of course, love to have another Ohio State guy back. But he brings another element to this team as well. And he brings an aggressive element that really stood out in St. Louis and, of course, now L.A. So love to see him come onto the team and, as I said, maybe even push back and go for a 3rd, 4th round guy for linebacker instead of, maybe a 1st or 2nd round.
Yeah, I certainly think I agree with that. I would. First off, it's shocking the Rams cut him. Obviously, him and Robert Quinn. Like, what in the world, man? That's so crazy.
Oh yeah.
Like, I would kill to have those guys on my defense. So
yep.
that was definitely a shocker there. I think bringing him would be good too. If the Bengals, because they're obviously if you follow the Bengals, they're not a team that goes out there and makes these huge free agent moves that completely change their franchise around. They don't go and sign the DeMarco Murrays to these ridiculous deals, but they make good deals. Hell, I still remember in 2003 when they signed Torrey James, how big that was for their defense and how much of a difference that made for Marvin Lewis getting that secondary together after you lose the Hawk. And you lost Jeff Burris that year. I still remember, for everything people complain about how his year not being the elite player. No, he wasn't Defensive Player of the Year, Super Bowl pick 6 James Harrison, but I thought for his role, I thought he played a good enough job. I was pretty disappointed the Bengals didn't bring him back, honestly. I thought I would have loved to see him finish his contract here. So if you go and get a guy like James Laurinaitis, though, I kind of think that's a big difference maker. Only because he is a guy that's still in his prime. He's still active. He's still healthy. You don't have to worry about injuries or his body beaten up. You don't have to worry about him, sitting out, only playing 15 of every 26 plays. You don't have to worry about him, all that stuff, because he's used to being on the field for a long period of time. When he was on a very bad Rams team, he was the shining star there. So if you go into this free agency, and let's say you go and you pick up James Laurinaitis, and you go and you get Morris Claiborne to fill in that's kind of Leon Hall spot, I think you really do what you need to for free agency, because every other team in your division, they have a lot of big gaping holes they need to fill. The Steelers' secondary is just atrocious. So bad. Mike Mitchell is terrible. I don't care what anyone says. He's actually from my hometown. He's awful. He can hit. Yeah, he can hit really hard, but he can't cover anybody. I think A.J. Green shows that in every Pittsburgh Steelers touchdown he scores on him. Baltimore's offensive line issues, which I think, they won't let Ronnie Stanley get past him if he drops there. So, they're going to be worried about Baltimore's running back situation there, too. Cleveland's everything, just about, except for Joe Thomas and maybe Barnkowski.
Oh, don't forget, too. I mean, they do have, if they can bring back their, core wide receivers, if they can get Andrew Hawkins healthy, I think they have a decent wide receiver core with Travis Benjamin, Andrew Hawkins.
But Benjamin's a free agent, too.
That's something they have to deal with in-house as well, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot to really have to look at there, and so that's something that's really for the Bengals there, they don't have to go out there and sign, some big time. Who's the guy? They don't have to go out there and sign Alshon Jeffrey. Would it be awesome? Totally. Is it going to happen? No way. But yeah, I mean, so you got to feel pretty fortunate about that circumstance.
No, absolutely. And I think there are a few teams that are headed into this draft that, and the Bengals are somewhat one if they take care of their free agency stuff, are ones that, can kind of take the best player on the board. And so, obviously something that the Steelers like to do, even though they shouldn't. And I think Kevin Colbert has gotten a lot of heat for that. Same with Mike Tomlin. But, they're one of the only ones in the AFC North that can honestly say, if they have 4 guys on their big board, if, all of them are gone, well, fine. You know what? We're going to go with the best guy available right now at this position, and move on. And so, it's a luxury. It's a curse, because then you have Bengals fans scratching their head going, but we need a wide receiver, or we need an outside linebacker, or we need an inside linebacker, or we need a defensive tackle, and see themselves scratching their head and going, well, who do you want them to take, a second-round guy in the first round? So, right. I think there's a lot of benefits there with the Bengals, in the position they're in compared to even their direct competition within their division.
Yeah, I agree there for sure. Let's go ahead and reset here real quick. This is Men in Stripes, brought to you by StripeHype.com. So kind of touch your base on everyone here, let you guys know we are still killing it over on StripeHype.com, prepping this off-season, putting our dish together as far as free agency, the draft, and all that fun stuff, and a lot of really good editorials. So I get a chance here to push some of the articles out there written. I don't want to tip my own horn or anything, but there's some writer there who wrote a really good article breaking down why he thought A.J. Green and Tyler Eifert might be the best 1-2 combo in the NFL. I'm kidding. I had to shameless plug there. Few really good articles about Sanu and Jones and who's a more valuable guy there. Reggie Nelson, George Iloka coming up. Matthew wrote a really, really good article actually, breaking down the upcoming 2016 opponents, matchups to look forward to there, as well as breaking down inside the division Heath Miller announcing his retirement. So nicely done there, sir. Connor wrote a really good article actually about James Laurinaitis being a potential fit. And then everyone's getting really good articles about prioritizing free agents and stuff. So anything else from the website you want to push this week that you want people to see?
Dylan had his first article, which was the NFL mock draft. So decent there. Obviously, there'll be more coming from me and probably him and a few others on the mock draft sides, whether it be just for the Bengals or for the whole first round eventually. Dare I say, because it's probably way too much work, but I will eventually. My goal is to get a 7-round draft out there before the draft. Needless to say, that week you'll probably hear me say about 20 times, please shoot me. I do say that if you do decide to shoot me, make it look like an accident. That's probably your best way around that. But I still remember the first one taking me 21 hours, so I dread saying that. But that's the ultimate goal. So I have seen about 150 draft profiles at this moment. So it's one that will be a work in progress for sure. But no, a couple of great ones. Your one with A.J. Green and Tyler Eifert was a good, solid article. Of course, we're putting out Connor's been putting out the Who Day dish. I hate seeing him go at the end of the month, but he's moving on to bigger and better things, and good for him. And but there's definitely some good stuff to check out. Casey had a good one about Nelson and Iloka being critical to the Bengals as well. So definitely some solid ones for sure.
Yeah, that's just so. I just want to make sure we touched on that real quick. All right, man. We ready for this?
I'm scared. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
It's time for our this week's edition of Picking Up or Putting Down. Are you ready?
Since I don't know any of the questions, I have to say I'm ready.
I knew you would be. All right. So, we did this on our last episode, and it actually got some pretty good traction. A lot of people talked about it, really. I got a lot of positive feedback with it. So, this is where we bring up a few topics that are big in the scene right now, and we decide if we are picking up this prospect as in we like this idea, or we are putting down if we don't think it's going to happen. So, Matthew, let's start right at the helm of the offense. Andy Dalton, 30 touchdowns next season, picking up or putting down?
25.
What?
25 touchdown passes. I am going to say 9 interceptions, and I'm going to say Jeremy Hill has 10. And that is why I think the running game comes back in 2016 with Thunder and Lightning. I think Lightning finally shows up. Thunder obviously doesn't go away, like he kind of faded towards the end of the season. And I think the running game plays a larger impact. So I'm going to go 25 on Andy Dalton. So I'm putting it down, and I'm saying the running game plays a much more impactful role in 2016.
I'm picking up, and here's why. A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert.
You know, sitting here staring at that article, I should have guessed you were going to pick it up.
We got to think, man. I mean, the Bengals are pretty lucky to have 2 of the top 5 players at their respective positions. And, you know, you have a guy like Giovanni Bernard who can catch passes out of the backfield and turn that into something special, as we've seen him do in seasons past. Jeremy Hill got a little involved in the passing game this year, man. Had an actually receiving touchdown.
About time.
Right, yeah. I think Tyler Kroft's going to end up being a very good number 2 tight end. I think that he's going to be a huge part of this team's growth next year because, you know, with those pending losses. There's just too many weapons. And I'm with you, man. I think the running game is going to be a huge part. I think when they get in the red zone, they're going to pound the ball into the end zone. But I still fully expect Tyler Eifert to continue to be the NFL's best red zone target. And I still fully believe that A.J. Green is going to still be the excellent wide receiver he is. So, I'm going to pick it up. I think that happens for sure.
And by the way, when I said 10, I meant 15. I just realized I said 10 for Jeremy Hill.
15.
That's why.
I'll take it for sure.
We had 11 this year, and and I'm saying he's going to improve. So, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, I just said 10, and he had 11 this year. What am I thinking? So, I think they're going to play more impact, and I think, dare I say it, Giovanni Bernard actually has a touchdown next year.
That'd be cool.
On the ground.
What?
I know.
You're crazy. All right. Picking up or putting down number 2. Darqueze Dennard is the Cincinnati Bengals starting nickel next year.
Starting nickel. It's believable. It is very believable. I'm picking it up, and that's with him coming back healthy. I think they have to see that first. I would love to say that he's going to be ready week 1. I don't know 100%. I haven't seen the latest on him, although it's not for lack of looking. But I think that he has the skill set to be obviously top 2 corner because he is number 2 corner. But he even has the potential, in my mind, to pass Drake or Patrick. Is the top corner for sure. And I think he has the talent and the ability to cover guys. I think if he allows his instincts to read kind of the quarterback and actually look for the ball, I think he has a successful year next year, and I absolutely think he could be, the starting nickel.
I'm putting down, but I think Darqueze Dennard ends up being one of the 2 corners. Drake Kirkpatrick was really disappointing this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be totally fair with that. I think Drake Kirkpatrick will be an excellent nickel corner. And I think you can put Darqueze Dennard in that spot. Maybe I think a little more of him than other people do, but we're talking about a guy who's a defensive back of the year in college. We're got a guy that has shown a lot of athleticism, great athletic ability. He's been in the system for 3 years now. If he is healthy, I think that he might really end up being the best corner on this team. Besides Adam Jones in that circumstance, but as far as like the best corner to build around, build your secondary around, I think that Darqueze definitely fills that role there. So I think that Darqueze Dennard, maybe not right away, ends up being the top right corner. Another reason I believe that is if you watched the little bits he got in the games this year, go back to that Monday night game against DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins couldn't get away from him. When he covered Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown did Antonio Brown things, sure, but he wasn't explosive. Darqueze Dennard held him very well too. His rookie year, when he blitzes out of the nickel and he sacks Jake Locker, Darqueze, and then not to mention Buffalo, that interception he made was sick. I think that Darqueze Dennard, as he continues to learn this system, has the full 100% potential to be a Pro Bowl cornerback.
Yeah, no, and I can't disagree with that at this point, because I fully believe that he is the future of this defensive backs, and I honestly think that he has the ability to be the future of the defensive back core.
Yeah, so I'm going to stay there. Picking up or putting down, because I think you and I both believe Adam Jones is back here next year. I think that's definitely fair. Adam Jones takes a punt to the house next year.
You obviously have an idea for this, so go ahead while I think.
I actually am putting down. And the only reason I'm putting down is not to say this is anything to take away from Adam Jones' talents, but it's been a while since he's done that. I think we've seen a lot of abilities there for him to do awesome things. He's obviously a huge talent for this team. He's done a lot of there, but you're seeing a lot more focus with him on the cornerback game, where he used to be the third or fourth corner. He was the guy that came in and played the nickel, but now that he's been that starting right corner, he's been at times following the number one corner wide receivers the other team. I think that he would be just awesome, and there for sure. So yeah, I think that I'm going to put down. Would I love to see it? Obviously, I still think he's the best returner this team has. But the closest he's gotten was the Carolina game in the tie when he got tackled at the 3.
Yeah, that is probably the closest he's been in a while. And I was thinking about putting it down. I really want to pick it up because, of course, the fandom side of it. But I also don't want to say that he's the number one return man, coming back. And my hope there is that they either have somebody drafted. We talked about Mario Alford taking over. I would love to see him kind of drop back to a number 2 and more save him for defense. I hate the fact that he was not the fact that he was so injury prone, but he was continuously kind of suffering from tweaks and sprains and strains and everything that way. So he was even limited because of some of that stuff. And so I would love to see him focus on keeping healthy on the defensive side of the ball and maybe even taking him on a reduced role in the punt game. So I'm putting it down for the fact that I hope the Bengals have somebody else returning punts and even being the primary kick returner for the Bengals. So I would love to see that lessened in his role and see somebody else more. And so it's not to say that the Bengals won't. I don't think the Bengals will take one to the house at all. It's just to say I hope that Pac-Man Jones is focused more on, or they're able to focus more on health and defense with him than special teams.
And the last edition of picking up or putting down for the week, Matthew, are you ready for this? Are you prepared?
No.
I didn't think you were.
Am I ever?
The Bengals make a free agent move that we don't expect them to make. They make a signing with a lot of extra money and the potential losses that makes our jaws drop. Are you picking up or are you putting down?
I don't think we expected last year for Michael Johnson to really come back to the
No.
Bengals. So, and that was kind of a jaw dropping, and it was a good jaw dropping because he fit so well in the Bengals, and I think we all saw him more going to Mike Zimmer and the Minnesota Vikings. So it's not out of the possibility like it used to be. I'm actually going to pick it up. I would love to see them make a move for Claiborne, Morris Claiborne, and I would love to see that because I think that could help them exponentially. And so I think it's still one of those people are kind of sitting there going, they're not going to do that, and the Cowboys are maybe going to give him another shot and do a little bit more for him. And, I honestly don't think so. I think his time in Dallas is done, and I would love to see him. I would love to see him in a Bengals uniform, and I'd love to see what he can do. I mean, he's a good, solid corner. I think that he would do well in Cincinnati, and so that would be one I think that would drop our jaws because it actually got done, and it's something that we've talked about. So I think that they'll do something. Jaw dropping, possibly for sure. It's they've got a lot of needs, and so maybe the jaw dropping is they keep Mohamed Sanu. That would be jaw dropping at this point. So it's not out of the realm. I'm going to pick it up just because I think they're going to pick up a couple people in free agency to lessen the need for rookie talent to come in and immediately play. And we might be shocked by who they bring in.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I am picking up only because I do think since there's a possibility they could lose both wideouts. You might think I'm nuts here. I think Travis Benjamin might end up being a target. I think he's a guy that could really fit in well with if we continue the Hugh Jackson system. Travis Benjamin will be very good for this team. Obviously, if Travis Benjamin can succeed with Josh McCown and Johnny Manziel, imagine what it would be like lining up, playing with Andy Dalton, lining up with A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert, and having that running game behind him that he just hasn't had those weapons before in Cleveland. He's a guy that can track the ball very well in the air. He's a guy that can run really crisp routes. He's fast. He has good hands. He is small, yes, but if the Bengals do lose Jones or Sanu, or possibly both, I think Travis Benjamin really comes into play for this team.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of those, a couple people that we might not expect. I mean, I know Browns are wanting to bring him back, and I know the Falcons are, trying to at least take a look at him and be more interested, although CBS Sports, I guess, reported that Benjamin talks are breaking down between him and the Browns. So it's not so much that it's out of the realm of possibility. I said it wouldn't be shocking for them to make a move that maybe brings us kind of sitting there going, finally. And so we've always said they may be 1-2 players away from making this team, not only playoff caliber, but Super Bowl caliber. And, it may be the same way this year that we're saying they're 1 or 2 players away.
Yeah, I certainly am with you there. So I think with that being said, unless you have anything else you want to touch on, we might be able to go ahead and say that we can put the closer out for this week's edition of Stripe Pipe. And Stripes.
I would like to apologize to Casey for the fact that we have a terrible system. No, Pamela failed us 2 weeks ago, and so it's not that we didn't make something the last 2 weeks. It's the fact that we failed on the side of our software, and so I apologize, Casey. The episode 3 got lost in cyberspace somewhere. So needless to say, we had an episode 3. I guess it's resting in peace in cyberspace because it is officially missing on SoundCloud. So, yeah.
Do you still have the file?
Well, it's not so much the file. We actually had did an upload where we recorded it straight to SoundCloud, and SoundCloud had the file in completion, And yeah, needless to say, it failed us terribly.
Fair enough. Oh man,
So,
that's awful.
so I'm sorry, Casey. Blame SoundCloud. No, I'm kidding.
We'll get it back on.
We'll definitely. We'll. Yeah, I would say we have to get Casey back on. Whether it's one of these times that it ends up being the three of us, and because he is very intelligent.
Yes.
In terms of the Bengals and sports and NFL in general. So we definitely need to get him back on.
Absolutely. Well, hey, man, thanks again for everything. I always enjoyed the week. Everyone out there in Houday land, enjoy the Combine this week and enjoy watching these future Bengals. Have a good one, everyone, and Houday.
Houday.